Talking all things Topper sports, you're listening to Redzone on Revolution 91.7.
Man, I love the music here on the WKU Redzone. It's one of my favorite parts of the Wednesday, our final Wednesday of the semester. Billy Rutledge, Josh Holland, Fletcher Keel here high atop mass media for the final time.
I'm glad that's going to be continued as I head out.
Oh, I'll continue it.
We're not that
said at least
high.
Once.
We are not that high.
We're a solid 25 feet in the air.
That's not that high.
Proportional to your height, that's 4 times.
Okay,
and that's
still
giving
not
you a
that
little
high.
bit. That argument
keep going.
Was there at the dawn of Redzone when Redzone first started. For our listeners that didn't know,
when Josh and I took over, it was there, not the dawn of the entire show, but it's about half of the lifespan of the show, I'd say. Right? Okay. Josh is shaking his head. You obviously can't see that.
That's why we need a simulcast.
Yeah.
It'll be a joke
Work on
that
it,
is
Revolution.
remembered for a while. And a weekend that will be remembered for a while will be this last weekend, because Saturday was a pretty big sports day. You had the Kentucky Derby, you had boxing, I mean, you had the second half of the NFL draft. And Josh, I believe you were at the Derby. What were you covering it for?
I was working with Wave 3. I was doing a little bit of a running for them and taking tapes back and forth. And
no, Josh, they only let the horses run.
Well, I was not as fast, but I still was a runner. And it was really, really magnificent. I mean, it's not something that you go to a lot of basketball games or football games if you're a sports fan, really baseball, and you can kind of differentiate, well, this one was better because of the atmosphere, this one was better because of the gameplay. You can kind of add those together and get to your favorite basketball game you ever went to. But the Derby, especially for the first time, is such a different atmosphere. You don't go to other things, even tailgating. If you tailgate for a 6 p.m. game, you're there at noon. Mm-hmm. For a 6 p.m. race, people got there at 7 in the morning.
Yep.
It's such an event, and then the sport is so short that I'd argue that there is no greater build up to any sporting event than the Kentucky Derby proportionally.
The greatest 2 minutes in sports.
Yeah. And you always forget how wonderful watching the Kentucky Derby is, because the horse racing season, the major season, is 3 races, the Triple Crown races, and they're all within, a month and a half of each other, and then the average sports fan's not going to hear about it from the
It's like having no regular season before the playoffs, and the playoffs are half.
Yeah.
Like it's the intensity of the action is so ridiculous because it means so much.
Yeah, and you forget how I was watching it on the second floor here in mass media, and I was on the edge of my seat watching it.
Middle between.
Yeah. And the thing that always captivates me, and one of the things I always forget about because it's so long until it happens again, is just how beautiful and majestic the horses are when they're running. They are going so fast trying to win the biggest sporting event in, if not the world, at least America, bigger than the Super Bowl, I would say, because of longevity and prestige and all that. But
you want to back up on that one, Fletcher?
Bigger than, okay, so you just put the Kentucky Derby against
the World Series.
Super Bowl.
When's the last
No, I'm going to get to the really important ones later. Yeah. Super Bowl, World Series, the Olympics, the World Cup.
To combat your argument, the Olympics and World Cup don't always happen in America.
You said in the world.
I said, if not the world, at least America. When's the last time 100,000 people went to a Super Bowl or a World Series?
The capacity, that's different though. You could argue NASCAR though. You can fit 160,000 people at a NASCAR race. But it's different because you physically cannot fit the people in a sporting event like that. They have an entire infield that is the size of 2 football fields where people can go, and that's where the majority of the people, that's probably 100,000 of your people is in that infield. You don't have the capacity to do that.
I still think the Kentucky Derby, the event itself, not necessarily the day or the name, but the 2 minutes itself is one of, if not the biggest sporting events in.
I think
it's
especially important for Kentuckians. I think it's even greater. If you looked at the TV ratings in Louisville, it was probably double than the second and third market.
Yeah, but where you're getting that is, maybe you're correct on the 170,000 people. That's the most that have ever been at a sporting event in America. But even then, the reach of it is not as much because as a Tennessean, it's not even on the radar.
Yep.
It's not important.
As a
Florida,
Georgian,
I had no idea.
It's not on the radar. Therefore, you don't have that extra 60 million people that are watching
But
it.
I also think that I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but with age, you kind of appreciate it more and look forward to it. Because I remember when I was little, my dad would watch it growing up in Georgia, and I wouldn't care, but my dad always wanted to see it because he always wanted to remember seeing every Kentucky Derby that he could. And so I think that plays along with it as well. It's not going to grab a 12-year-old like a Super Bowl will, but it's still something that's very much looked forward to and marked on every hardcore sports fan's calendar, and then every middle of the road sports fan, 25, 30 and older.
Well, the Derby made it an exciting weekend, and another thing that was exciting this weekend was the NFL draft. And we talked a little bit about last week's show if we thought that some WKU players were going to get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they didn't. But right after, 3 WKU players were signed to contracts. It was actually the league minimum, all 3 of them. Cameron Clemens with the Chargers, Cam Thomas with the Bills, and Mitchell Henry with the Packers, all signed the league minimum $435,000 base salary, which is still more than we're making here on the Red Zone. And a 3
because we're making nothing right
million.
now.
Well, you're not making nothing.
We're on here for free. On the the work we do for the Red Zone is not compensated.
Which is why it's low quality.
That's true.
Well, you guys say low quality as it is, but the quality in the NFL is not. And for them to be able to compete at this level, I really like the addition of Cam Thomas on the Bills. I think Rex Ryan is a defensive mastermind, and I think that with some coaching, a little bit of training, that Cam Thomas could be somebody that sees the field a little bit and can contribute.
I think it's awesome that Cam Thomas went to Buffalo for 2 reasons, and it really doesn't have anything to do with his potential on the field. Last year, Xavier Boyd got signed by the Bills for a little bit. I think he was on the roster for 2 or 3 preseason games before he was let go. And then when Antonio Andrews was still on the practice squad for the Titans, the Bills were talking about trying to get him, which is one of the reasons the Titans promoted him to the 53-man roster. And so it's got the inklings of becoming a pipeline, so to speak, of even if no one gets drafted, they still know that there are quality players coming out of WKU to sign as undrafted free agents and give them a run. And I like seeing them continue that issue with Cam Thomas.
Before it ever can be a pipeline, you have to have people that are consistent.
Okay, and pipeline might not be the word, but still that's 3 instances in the span of about a year where Buffalo has singled out or almost singled out a WKU player.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely say that Western Kentucky football is on people's radar more, but the bottom line is all 3 of these players have a chance to do one of 2 things: fade away or be a solid backup, probably.
Jack Doyle, Bobby Rainey.
I mean, they have
Andrew Jackson.
They all have they have the chance to go in there and not impress anyone in camp, but they also are skilled players. I mean, Mitchell Henry, if you look at the tight end situation in Green Bay, could play for the number 3 spot and then get some number 2 action, and who knows who Aaron Rodgers can make anyone look good. We've seen Peyton Manning do it before, so he's got a chance there. An offensive lineman always has a chance because of injuries of people going down. And then you look at, Cam Thomas. You said it yourself. Rex Ryan is really good at getting people to blitz some different packages, putting people in situations that they're good at. And if you have Cam Thomas, who can maybe play a nickel spot that is really involved in the run game, and he can capitalize on that. But all 3 of these guys are going to be given slight opportunities that they have to make into huge opportunities, whereas first-round picks are going to be given huge opportunities that they hope they don't screw up.
And I was about to say that with Henry going to Green Bay, I think that's my favorite possibility of these 3 is it's almost like a Jack Doyle situation where it's a guy from WKU, undrafted free agent, going to a team with one of the most highly thought of quarterbacks in the game. We see what Luck has done with Doyle in terms of the passing game, and Doyle's been used as the H-back in the I formation in Indianapolis. Who knows even if Henry is that number 3 tight end, he might not line up there all the time. He might be in the backfield providing some blocking. So I think that is the possibility that most excites me out of all 3 of them.
The only problem with that, though, is that the whole H-back thing is not going to work in Green Bay because they have got John Kuhn. I mean, he's the only entrenched fullback really left in the league. And he's the only, I don't know of any other fullback that has a chant for their name, for their team. And Vontae Leach used to be one of those guys when he bounced around. Mike Allstott when he was in Tampa Bay. There's your Buccaneers reference for the show. You'll be getting those once a week for the next 2 years, unfortunately. If Billy can start giving some sort of intro so you can mute it when the Tampa Bay Bucs reference.
Yep.
But the problem is that spot is already taken. So he doesn't have the chance to be the versatile guy that can play fullback and tight end in Green Bay. Can he do that somewhere else? Yes, but he's not going to unseat John Kuhn.
To be honest, I like all 3 of the signings. I think Cameron Clemens could find a spot with the Chargers, with Phillip Rivers, who's already an established quarterback and veteran, and them just drafting Melvin Gordon, who's a running back who's going to need some blocking, and so there's going to be an emphasis on the line to produce.
And I've got a couple of friends who are Chargers fans, and I texted them as soon as I saw the move. I said, "Hey, you got a Hilltopper, come and enjoy him." And someone said, "I'm glad that they picked an offensive lineman because that was one of the things I wanted them to address in the draft."
Say, it just seems like all 3 of them are going to find a chance, and if they just have to impress themselves, but there is a possibility there. Another WKU player that was not signed by anybody, but that has a workout is Willie McNeil.
Willie McNeil.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Willie McNeil has a workout with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and as exciting as that is, not to take anything away from McNeil, we all know the great career he had here. I do want to say that K1 Jake's got a workout in Jacksonville. So workouts aren't necessarily the same as being picked up right out of the gate as an undrafted
the reality
free
of the
agent.
situation.
But McNeil, Tampa might be a weird place because their receiving is not only young but also very talented as well.
Drafted a receiver too.
Yeah, and so the Tampa Bay might not be the fit for him, but just that he's getting a look is good in some ways, but other ways players get this all the time.
Same situation. He's going, if not worse situation, he's going to have to take the smallest of opportunities and make something huge about it because Willie McNeil is small and he's not the quickest. He's not a J.J. Nelson coming out of Florida International that is just, or J.J. Hardy, coming out of ECU. J.J. Nelson came out last year. J.J. Hardy coming out of ECU is a small, undersized guy, maybe a little bit around Willie McNeil's size, but he is so darn quick. McNeil does not possess that incredible change of pace or that straight line speed. He's got decently reliable hands that have gotten better along his career. He's going to have to come out and have one of the best workouts of his life just to get an opportunity for a practice squad.
Yep.
Because he doesn't possess that 6'5", I used to play basketball, I'm an athlete. He possesses that I've got the most catches in Western Kentucky history, so I know I can catch the ball. Yeah. But I've got to show you something else because if he can't get past a defender because he's small or a step slow, then it doesn't matter if he can catch the ball.
I truly think the best case scenario for McNeil is for him to have a great workout with Tampa. Tampa lets him go and then he finds a home somewhere else and lands on a practice squad elsewhere because I don't see him moving up to a 53-man roster in Tampa Bay with that receiving core they have.
There's a lot of receivers out there too. There's a lot of talented players, and if you can't get it done, if you don't take care of your opportunity, they will replace you. It is just cutthroat league. Another player that's going to be looking for an opportunity or expand his opportunity is T.J. Price. Today, he works out with the Utah Jazz.
That's awesome.
A team that already has Jeremy Evans on it.
Evans doesn't play a lot though, but that's a lot because they have a lot of depth at that forward and center position, so they really don't need him. And we've talked about a couple times here how small TJ is as a guard at his position, but he might be valuable in the D League and be able to become somewhat of a different player, something that the Jazz might need, and then put him up with the big club.
So
but just getting a workout with the Jazz is not like an NFL workout. Not everyone gets a workout in the NBA.
Right. And with this topic, I come to the question to you guys: do you think TJ Price can? Probably isn't right now, but do you think that TJ Price is someone that can turn into a Courtney Lee? A Courtney Lee where maybe not he's scoring 20 points in the playoffs, but somebody that can play, somebody you're going to see on TV, TJ Price hitting a three in the corner every so often here on NBA TNT tonight.
Can he become a specialist? Because I think that if he could become Kyle Korver, maybe, but he's pretty darn efficient from downtown. I think one of the things that helps him as far as just getting a spot on the team to figure out what his role is how much he developed his passing game this past season. I mean, he became one of the team leaders in assists and really opened up his game that way. I think as a 6'4" guard coming out of college, you are neither 6'2" and really fast or 6'6" and can shoot over people. So you're a tweener at the point guard or shooting guard. He's going to have to prove that not only can he find an open guy down low or on the wing, but he can shoot 45%. If he can do that, he gets his tryout, and from there, as a 3-point shooter, that's probably going to be his role if he has one. He's going to have to shoot lights out in the D League and get an opportunity, but he's still small. It's hard to shoot over NBA defenders that are 6'6" if you're 6'4".
Well, I say that to Nate Robinson though. You know?
Nate Robinson's game isn't shooting. Nate Robinson's game is getting around people. TJ Price's game is not getting around people.
Yeah, okay.
When you're 5'8", you don't have to shoot over people because you're small enough to get by them. When you're 6'4", you are in between a point guard, so you're a little bit slower than the point guard. You're a little bit shorter than the shooting guard. So what is your game? If he can somehow find a niche, maybe, but odds are that he's going to have a lesser shooting percentage than he did in college because he's got longer arms facing.
And I think you kind of doomed the question as soon as you put in the can he be a Courtney Lee? And TJ Price and Courtney Lee, the two games don't necessarily correlate to respond to one another. I think Price can find a way into the D League, find a way as the third or fourth guy off the bench, come in for a couple minutes to maybe get a quick shot, to maybe draw some defenders away. Hey, we think we're going to go to the starter point guard, then kick it to TJ in the corner, and he hit a big three, but I don't think we're going to see a consistent, productive TJ Price unless he somehow can completely change his game from shooting to a facilitator or something.
TJ is one of the nicer guys that I've interviewed on the Hill.
Absolutely.
But he's a high D-League player, maybe 14th guy off the bench if he plays very well.
And especially with the Jazz.
That's just what it is. And prove me wrong, but
and especially
I wouldn't hate it if he did, because he deserves that. He's worked very, very hard for what he has. But the reality of the situation is that he is a higher end D1 and then D-League, and maybe if he plays exceedingly well in the D-League, gets that 14th spot on the bench.
And again, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because the Jazz really isn't a team that a guy like TJ Price wants to go to, because they're a lottery pick. They're in a kind of rebuilding mode, and they're going to want to get a top guy name to plug in one of those guard spots to build for the future.
We're going to have to see how he does on that workout. One final thing with the basketball team, they've hosted their annual end-of-the-season banquet. Last night I was in attendance, and 3 people that were not in attendance were Brandon Price, Rob Mayberry, and DJ Clayton.
Yeah, the Rob Marbury news that he was transferring kind of took me by surprise, more so than the news of Price and Clayton, although Marbury and Clayton were both very close. I think it was more than if I had to speculate why Marbury's leaving, I thought he came in thinking he was going to get more playing time, and then it turned out to be Justin Johnson was the go-to and not a platoon situation between Johnson and Marbury. So I think he was a bit unhappy with his first year, but that kind of takes a little bit of the excitement out of next year, because I was looking forward to see Marbury become more of a factor on the floor.
The first day I interviewed Rob Marbury, the first day of WKU Media Day, he said
Rob Marbury looks like a tall Billy Rutledge.
Well,
it's mostly the hair.
He does a little bit.
That's tough for our listeners to find that out, but I'm at Billy R Sports, and Rob Marbury's out there in the 20
You just tell people to
go
take a look at pictures of you?
Yeah, just Google me. You'll find me. I'll be the first one that comes up.
That's scary.
But those 3 were not in attendance. Brandon Price, a walk-on that actually left the team, and it was cited for, I believe it was cited for marijuana paraphernalia by the College Heights Herald, was first reported there, and so he was not on the team. That was after he had supposedly left. So Brandon Price, just another player to add on the list of WKU players leaving. We're going to take our next break of the WKU Red Zone. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Conference USA year in review. You're listening to the Red Zone on Revolution 91.7.